Hi, you guys. Welcome back to my channel, Spoken from the Spectrum. I'm Michelle, and today I'm going to talk about how I found out that I was autistic. And I'm excited to share this video because it was kind of weird how I found out, to be honest, super unexpected. So, without any further ado, let's get right into it. So what happened was I'm into yoga. I love yoga. If you've seen my first video, Signs of Autism in Women, then you know I love yoga, right? So anyway, I took a yoga class. It was a yin yoga class. And I've been doing yoga for about 4 years now. But this was my first time taking an in-person yin yoga class. And about maybe 2 days later, I realized that my joints, my body, I was just in so much pain and I couldn't figure it out. The only thing that I did different was I took this yin yoga class. So I started to do some research. I was Googling, why is my body sore after yin yoga? So what came up was eventually I came across hypermobility, right? So hypermobility is basically when your joints are able to extend beyond the normal range of motion. So basically I found out that people who are hypermobile shouldn't be doing yin yoga. So I started to read more and more about hypermobility and things like that. And then I came across something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I learned about it before, a while ago, but I didn't learn about the hypermobility type. So basically there are 14 different types of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and it's a genetic disorder. But there's one type, the hypermobility type of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, that is the only one that doesn't have a known gene linked to it. So I'm going to make another video about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, also called EDS, specifically the hypermobility type, and I'll go into how it's diagnosed, some symptoms attached with it, and things like that. But in this video, I just want to focus on how I found out I was autistic. So anyway, in doing my research about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I found out that people with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome are or have a greater risk or a greater likelihood of being autistic. And I was like, that's interesting. Let me read about that. Because I like to research and learn new things, right? As I'm sure a lot of you guys do too. So I started reading about autism, and I've learned about autism in the past, but I've never learned about it. It was always from a child's perspective, or how it presents in a child, if that makes sense. So what I knew really about autism was it was a developmental condition. Children usually like things ordered a certain way, organized, or they had hand flapping or something like that. And that's really all I stored in my mind about autism. So as I'm starting to read about it, I'm noticing this kind of sounds a little bit familiar. And it sounded familiar because these things have been present in myself, right? And it's funny because I watched The Good Doctor, and my partner, he's always compared me to Sean Murphy. So if you know The Good Doctor, then you know that it's about a resident who starts at a hospital. He's autistic, and they kind of give him a hard time because they're like, we can't have an autistic doctor working at this hospital, whatever. So he has to prove himself that he is capable. And he's super smart, and he can figure out all of these medical mysteries easily and things like that. So it's a really good show, and it kind of talks about his experience. But anyway, we watched that show a lot, and he would always compare me to him. And I'm like, what? I am not like that at all. So as I'm reading more about autism and I'm thinking about, these comparisons, I'm like, oh man, there might actually be a chance that I'm autistic, right? So then I start watching YouTube videos, and thank you to all the YouTubers who have highlighted autism and autistic adults, because you usually just think about children as being autistic, but I mean, what happens to those autistic children, right? Like, we grow up and we become adults. So I watched, like, I don't even know how many YouTube videos I spent like a whole day watching YouTube videos and doing research about autism. And by the end of that day, I was convinced. I was like, I'm definitely autistic. So then I went through Samantha Craft's checklist, which, my first 4 videos was about going through that checklist, and I almost checked off every single thing from her checklist, right? So then I was like accepting it. I was like, okay, well, I probably am autistic, and things finally started to make sense for me in my life. Like, I finally realized why I always felt like an outcast, or why I always felt so different from people, or like my anxiety, like, it's rooted in my autism as well as other things. But I think being autistic has a lot to do with the anxiety that I experience. But, finding out that I'm autistic really answered a lot of questions for me, and really gave me the power to be myself. For the first time, I feel like I can be myself. Like, I have another YouTube channel that you guys know about. It's linked to this channel. But if you go to that channel and you look at like maybe my first 3 or 4 videos, you'll see the mask. You'll see the mask that I'm wearing, and like how hard I'm trying to like be a YouTuber and to fit in, you know what I mean? But since finding out that I'm autistic, like, my energy is like toned down a lot more. I don't feel like I have to try so hard, and I feel like I can just be myself, and it's great. So yeah, that is my story on how I found out that I was autistic. It all started from me taking a yoga class, and now I'm here, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to finally understand myself more, and to be building this community, and to be connecting with other autistic individuals. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you found this video interesting or helpful in any way, don't forget to like it, comment down below, and let me know how you found out you were autistic. Did it start with you taking a yin yoga class and, ended up on this rabbit hole? I'd love to hear from you guys, and stay tuned for my next video. Bye!